I want to welcome you guys back to this channel. Like I said earlier in the previous videos, if you're new on this channel, please do well to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and like and comment and share these videos to your friends, people who you know this information will be helpful to them. So we've done several videos, we've done several series, starting from explaining what forex is all about, explaining trends, structures, candles, and the likes. And then today, like I promised from the last video, today we are going to focus on something very, very, very important. This thing is very important, and this is one thing that actually a lot of people ignore, and it costs them a lot, costs them their money, costs them a lot, costs them their peace. When I mean their peace, I mean their peace of mind in the trading market, right? In the trading industry, a lot of people, a lot of beginners actually find it difficult when it comes to this area. Of the market. And then what's this area? What's this all about? What am I talking about? What am I trying to emphasize more on? Like I said from the previous video, I said that we're going to focus and we're going to talk today on risk management. Risk management. So risk management. So now, what is risk management? Risk management. You can define risk management actually with a lot of people, right? Different people have different definition for risk management. A lot of people have the way they define what risk management is. But if you want to understand what this thing stands for, you need to, if you want to understand how it works, if you want to understand how you can apply it to your own trading life, you need to understand and know what it stands for, what it really means. Because remember, when I was saying something about 3 pillars that actually helps people to become profitable in the forex market, when I was talking about 3 pillars, I spoke about the strategy, I spoke about risk management and money management and then psychology, right? Which I said strategy for me, right? Everybody has percentage-wise in which they place. Certain mentors will tell you they just have 2. Certain mentors will tell you 10% is for both strategy and risk management, then 90% they believe 90% is meant for psychology, right? While some people will tell you you have 10% for strategy, you have 30% for risk management and money management, and then they will now say 60% for psychology. Whatever way they put it, psychology is still the boss, right? Psychology, the mindset towards the chart is still the boss. That's still the main guy. So now, what is risk management? Now, risk management, if you want to understand what this system is, this risk management, if you want to understand, if truly you want to understand what it is, it's just from the name, a risk management. A risk, that means managing your risks, right? What may I call risk management is preservative mechanism, right? Preserving your account. A preservative, risk management is a preservative on an account. It's a preservative you carry out on your account, in the sense that you carry out when you are on a trade, before and after, before, during and after a trade. Why do I say before, during and after a trade? Let me just leave it before and during a trade. Now, what is risk management? Like I said earlier, there are a lot of definitions, but I do call it a preservative, right? A preservative of capital. A preservative we use to protect our capital. Because it's when you have capital you can actually trade. If you lose your capital today, tomorrow there's no more money to trade the setup you end up saying. So like I used to tell my students, and I will still say on this particular video, that I'm not the owner of the market. There's nobody who is owning the market. So if you actually come into the forex market with the mindset that your strategy is 100% accurate, bro, you're lying. You're lying to yourself. There's no 100%. Right? That's why we have what is called risk management. There's no investment that is 100% accurate. Even the most conservative investment, there's a risk part of it. That's why even as you are being pessimistic, as you are being optimistic, you are supposed to be pessimistic too, right? Optimistic in aiming or anticipating for the better. You need to still be pessimistic. Creating room for errors, right? That's what risk management help us to do. When you have proper risk management system, it's because you have it in your head, one side behind your brain or behind your head, that this thing might not always go the way you want it to go, because you are not the owner of the market. You can't actually sell and and say that this must go to a particular direction. Anybody telling you that, the person is actually not really being sincere to you. The person is not being sincere to you. It's actually not being sincere to you. So what do I mean? If someone wants to tell you that if you use this system, you actually will be profitable and you can't lose any trade, all your trading, no. So that's where risk management comes to play, right? So risk management, some people can call it having a safety net. Some people can call it, I call it preservative, helping you protect your account, the things you're engaging that helps you preserve your account. Now, a lot of you might have heard of this word, risk to reward. Risk to reward is a system. It's okay. Now let me see. I'm trying to break this thing down in a way that you guys will end up understanding what I mean when I'm explaining risk management. Risk to reward now is one path. Like I said, a moment. Okay, I'm trying to connect this. My internet is not connecting. So, like I said, risk management. There are different things we engage in that helps us to protect or to manage our risks. There are different ways, but the most popular that people talk most of the time is risk to reward. Risk to reward. You might have heard of risk to reward. Now, what does risk to reward? You've heard of this word, maybe RR. Ratio R. That's risk to reward. And what does this risk to reward stand for? Risk to reward, just from risk to reward, from the word risk to reward, it means that what you are actually able or what you are willing to risk for versus what you will get. Right? So if I'm willing to risk, let me say for instance, I'm willing to risk $10 per trade. I'm willing to let me write this out. Risk to reward. So if I'm willing to, let me say, risk $10 for a particular trade. If I'm willing to risk $10 for a particular trade, now my system should at least give me a 1:2. What do I mean by a 1:2? It means that if I'm willing to risk $10, at least I should be able to make $2 from that particular trade, right? I should be able to make, if I'm risking $2, so I should be. So if I'm saying I'm making use of a system, because they have different example of this risk to reward. There are certain people who make use of their system or their strategy now allows them to make use of 1:, let me say 1:2, 1:3, 1:4. At least your strategy should help you to risk and get ×2 of what you are risking. What do I mean? Now, if my system, I will come back to where I was trying to explain certain things that you can engage in that will help you protect or preserve your account or manage your risks, right? Certain things that can help you manage your risks. So I'm just talking on one part of it, which is risk to reward, right? Risk to reward ratio, right? Risk to reward ratio. Risk to reward ratio. So risk to reward ratio. Now, this is one path of things you can engage in to help you preserve the risks. Now, I will explain in depth this particular one, but before I explain this in depth and the system in which you can engage to help you avoid a lot of, or to help you preserve your account on a long run, because a lot of people are saying forex is a scam, that forex people lose a lot. Yeah, actually they lose. So anybody telling you that you can't lose, anybody just being optimistic about this game and without being pessimistic, be realistic. Let me just use that word, right? Yeah, it's nice to be positive, yes. It's nice to say your system helps a lot, yes, but it's better you create the room for errors, because if you actually put it in your mind that you can't lose, the very day you end up losing, it affects your mindset, it affects your psychology, in the sense that there's something that happens to you upstairs. When it happens, you tend to tell yourself that, this thing, are you sure? You now start doubting your system. Whereas we are supposed to create room in your head that this thing might not always work. Because I know I'm not the owner of the market, I'm supposed to create room for it. That's why people make use of what we call stop losses, SLs, because they know it might not always play. Even the best of the strategies we have out there are just 85% accurate. Or let me just say 90. Let me say 90%. So the remaining 10% remaining there, some people will tell you their strategy is 99%. Okay, they should just, I don't want to say much on that, but even if they say 99%, there's a 1% that is wrong that would end up being a time when you end up losing. It means that if your strategy, let me say, is 90% accurate, that means for every 10 trade you take, one will go wrong. One would go wrong. Or if your strategy is 80%, now for every 100 trades you take, 20 of them will go wrong if your strategy is 80% accurate. So what then happens when you are losing? Will you then risk more because you are losing? Would you then know that you are supposed to pause or reduce your risk at that point? Now, what being realistic in this game is that you know that one day your system will end up, it's like a circle. There's a circle. Professional traders will tell you this. It's like a circle. Sometimes you have winning streak, and then it will now come to a point where it's as if you are having losses. It's not as if you are not good. It's not as if your system stopped working. It just happened that it came to the part of the circle that is the loss. It just came to that point where it's the 20% that want to play out. Right? So being pessimistic is actually needed in this game. You need to be pessimistic. You need to be telling yourself, you need to be realistic to the fact that you are not the owner of the market. You don't own the market. So risk management is something you must engage in, no matter how good your system is. The reason why you are trying to manage risks, not just because of your money on the chart, but because of you, your mind, and your peace of mind, the health of your mind. Like this sanity you need to have to continue trading, because it's beyond the physical of just pressing, clicking buy and sell. No. It's more of psychology. It's affect. It's just like somebody breaking your heart, and then you find it difficult to trust the next person. You hear people making statements like, guys has come, all those stuff. They'll make certain stuff because somebody broke their heart. And so they are finding it difficult to open themselves up, open themselves to the reality that they can truly find someone who can actually want or love them. They actually find it difficult. That's how it happens on the chart, right? Sorry, I'm using that example. I'm not a relationship coach, sorry. So, like that's how it happens on the chart. It kills the confidence of you trusting your next trade if you don't use proper risk management. What do I mean? If maybe for a trade that you're supposed to risk, let me say 10, you're supposed to risk $10. You're supposed to risk, let me say you're supposed to risk $10. And then you now end up risking for that trade. Instead of risking $10, you end up risking, why is this thing doing like this? Instead of risking $10, you end up risking, let me just say, you end up risking $50. Maybe in a $200 account, you end up risking $50 because you did not make it a proper risk management. I bet you your next trade you tend to be scared when you see your setup. You tend to now doubt your setup. You tend to doubt the fact that your setup can give you this result you want. Whereas you should have avoided that, because you can end up seeing 10 trades, and then at the end of the day, that 10 trade might not play out the way you wanted it. Inside the 10, 8 might end up playing well, or 7 might end up playing well, or 6 might end up playing well. Now, maybe when you started trading, 10 of your trades, I'll do more of talking on this. I think this will be of 2 parts. 10 might be 10 trades might actually come to your way, or maybe your setup might end up playing 10 times, and then maybe the first 4 you are trading, the first 4 maybe got to SL, and the remaining 6 setup ended up playing well. So imagine out of 10 trades, you lost, let me say you lost 4, and then you are left with just 6, right? 6 went well. Now imagine you having, let me say you are having, I'm just trying to explain this the basic way I can to help you understand how risks can help you. let me say for each of the trade, I will explain using the ratios when we go to the next when I go further. Now, let me say you are having $10, you are having $100. For instance, right, when it comes to risk management, the textbook will tell you that you should read at least $1 to $2. 1 to 2% of your account, yeah, which is very true, right? 1 to 2%. Why some people tell you it's 0.5 as you are a beginner, as you are trying to learn, as you gain mastery, then you increase it, right? You increase it. Some persons actually risk even up to 10-20% of their account. That's the story for another day, actually. So now, let me say, for instance, I'm just using an instant. You have $100 in your account, and let me say you have 10 trades that you're supposed to take. These 10 trades, for instance, you are supposed to take these 10 trades. Now, 4 of these trades eventually now went against you. They went haywire. And these 4 trades, for instance, happened when you started seeing your setup. Maybe in a day or in a week, you saw 10 setup. But the first 4 you saw actually went to SL. The normal thing you are supposed to do, you are supposed to risk $10 per trade. That means that $100 you can enter 10 different trades. Then as you started trading, instead of sticking to the $10 you want to risk, you ended up saying, I'm sure of this setup, let me risk $20 on the first trade. $20 on the first trade. Now, the moment you trade, it got to SL. It got to your SL. Now, don't forget you are having $100, right? $100 is what you have in your account. $100 is what you have. Now, if you do 100 minus 20, you are left with what? 80%. $80. Don't forget, we say, for instance, we are just assuming, right? Assumptions that you end up getting 10 good trades for that week, 10 good setup. You will see 10 setup from your strategy. Now, let's now say the next trade which got to SL, you now decided to, because you lost this one, your account is level 80, you say you want to double it, you want to carry it back, and you are sure of that setup, and you now ended up risking, let's say you risked $25. Maybe you are aiming to get 1:3 or 1:2. Here you're aiming to get $40, ended up losing 20. Here you're aiming to get 50, ended up losing SL hit again. Now your account now is now left with what? Your account is left with what? Your account now will be left with what? $55. Now, you're aiming. Let me say you are playing a 1:2 game. You're supposed to make $40 here. Here you wanted to make $50, right? To increase your account. I didn't mean you made this one, you'll be left with 140. If you made this one 140 plus 50, you'll be left with 140 plus 50. That means 190 in profit in your balance. Now, the third trade, now you are now angry. You now say, "Kai, your account is left $55. Let me just go in and reach 50%. You now say you should reach 50%. Or let me say you say you wanted to reach $30 from this trade. You ended up losing $30. And then you blow it. It got to SL. Your account is now left with $25. And then this particular trade, you now say, your brain now came back. Your brain came back, and then you said you wanted to risk $10. And then you still go to SL. Now this is like 4 losing streaks. SL. Now your account is level $15. Then this is the first trade, the second trade, the third trade, the fourth trade. Don't forget, we are giving an assumption from start that imagine you seeing 10 setups from your strategy. Your strategy is giving you 10 setup, and then instead of sticking to the $10 you are risking, you now decide to increase because you are saying you have confidence that this your strategy must work. It will go, and it ended up some unforeseen circumstances happened. Market manipulation maybe happened, or something, an external factor affected the move of the market, and it sure happened that you ended up losing 4 trade on a row, 4 losing streaks. Now, your system might not be wrong. Your system might still be perfect, but your management is wrong, and it's making it look as if your system is false. Now, there's no 100%. There's no holy grail anywhere. Whatever is holy grail, maybe you stayed with it for the longest, and it's still not holy grail because you're still making use of vessels. Yes, you're still putting stop loss, and you're still making use of vessels because you know, in one way or the other, there are certain times your human nature will even play out. You might end up using emotions. No matter how long you have stayed in this game, there's a part of you that's still having emotion. no matter how far you've gone in this game, when you are in a trade, there's still a part of emotion playing out. Right? So let's go back to our example. Your account now, you lost $10 and then remaining $15. And then now your fifth trade, which was not supposed to be a winning trade. You're now supposed to, initially you're supposed to be reaching $10. Now because your account is 15, you now say you want to follow the normal rule, because that's what normally happens now. You now say, let me reach $2. Let me use $2 for my $15, and you end up making $4. And then the next trade, you say, let me still stick to the $2 because of the experience you have gotten from this remaining four. From this 4, you enter with $2 and you end up making $4. Let's say you enter the remaining 6 trade, reaching to $2, you made 4. That means 4 times 6, right? 4 times 6. You're making $24 in profit. $24 good in profit, plus your balance, which was 15. Plus the balance, which was 15. You ended up making what? 39. You have $39 in your account. 39 from $100. Now you now post or tell your friend that you got 10 trades and 6 went well, 4 went against you. You are supposed to be in good profit if you stick to the $10 risk to reward. If you stick to the $10, you end up making good ton of profit. Yeah, your balance now became 39. But imagine, or let's assume, or let's imagine that you actually decided to stick to the $10 initially when the account was 100, and then you ended up losing 4 straight trades. So 4 times 10, which was supposed to be what you wanted to be risking, right? It's supposed to be what? $40. You're supposed to risk $40. You are supposed to maybe be down with $40, and then your account will still be left with what? 60. I'm just giving an example, right? A fictional story. I'm just giving an example, right? That's why I'm using 10%. $10 is very high for $100 account, but I'm just trying to give an example. I'm trying to paint a picture. So now, if your account now is now left with $60, and then the remaining 6 trade, the remaining 6 trade that you now got, that now played out well, your setup now played out well, you are supposed to now make the remaining 6 trade. Each of those trades, you are supposed to reach $10 to get $20, right? To get $20. Let me say 20 now, 20 times 6, which was for the remaining 6 trade that went well. 20, that means 120. You're supposed to be 120 plus that your initial balance that left after hitting stop loss for four places, right? You're supposed to be left with 60 plus 120. Your account balance now is not supposed to be what? $180, right? That's what's supposed to be your account balance, $180. If you stick to your rule of fixing those $10. Now at the end of 10 trades, you ended up raising your account by 80%. But a lot of people will tend to ignore the fact that managing their risks, they will say no, it's for beginners. You are trying to grow your account. Somebody will show you that they flipped $1,000 to $10,000. Bro, that's not the only money they have in their hands. That's not the only money, right? That's not the only money in their account. They have a lot. That is just their aggressive account. We have different type of account. There are people who have 3 type of account. They have aggressive, semi-aggressive, and conservative account. The conservative is the one having their main money, the main capital they have. That's where their money is. The semi-aggressive is the one that just have maybe, let me say, like 10% or 20% of their money. And then the aggressive is having just 5% or 2%. And you are seeing that person flipping money, and you now carry your other money and say you want to flip. Bro, you'll be flipped. You'll be flipped, right? No offense, right? But you'll be flipped. So if you can actually stick to this model, have this mindset, this consciousness of saying, if your system is telling you to risk $10 per trade, stick to it. Stick to that $10 per trade. Stick to it. For that week, stick to it. When your account increases, then you can increase it. Right? I think that will be all for this first part. And then before I will now go to the other part where I will explain the different system and how that you, on a long run now, this, if you make use of this is just for the risk management part. Then I spoke about stop loss, but I did not say much about it. We'll talk about maybe trailing. In the next video, maybe I might just talk a little bit on trailing profits, stop loss, how your stop loss is supposed to help you on trades. I will still just explain in further. The second part of this week's management, I will still explain, right? So I still remain affair. So stay safe and God bless. If you've actually not subscribed, please do well to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share, like, comment, so we'll know what we'll post next for you, right? So the next video will be the second part of the week's management. I don't want this video to be long, so the next part I'll just talk more on still week's management, right? There are a lot of things to be said on this, but I'll just explain what I want to explain for you guys to just tune and shape or change the perspective you have on the market of wanting to come and then blow overnight. You cannot blow overnight. We grow in this game. If you try to want to make it fast, you blow. You blow. When I mean blow, you blow your account well. But when you are ready to grow, that's how you grow. You grow in this game. We grow in this game, right? It's not something that happens overnight, right? So yeah, I remain affair. Stay safe, right? And God bless.